numbers yet, but in my eyes, were a super team to start with. I was truly excited to be able to work with Steve and Robin, young guys, really smart. Had worked, at Petty's and been around NASCAR for long enough that they were ready to really come into their own. So it was an exciting time. We got the first car built. The first car was an intermediate car. Got it built in time for the last race of '87 at Atlanta. And so, and we took it down and tested Atlanta on Monday and Tuesday after the Atlanta race there in November. And it went well. We were just, building a trailer and building a organization of, a building in Pleasant Garden. Well, not Pleasant Garden. That's where Steve lived, but Liberty, North Carolina, which was outside of Greensboro, close to Randleman, where Petty Level Cross, where Petty Enterprises was, and all. So there was an awful lot of work to do, and Jack had told Steve and Robin that we were going to run a limited schedule initially. And so when we got ready to make the announcement, when they landed Stroh's, and so we had an announcement, press announcement, had to press up there to Liberty in January. And made the announcement when Jack made the announcement that, we'd signed Stroh's for a sponsorship. He also told the media that we'd be running the full schedule, which was news to poor Steve and Robin, who, were just not prepared for all that. There was just so much work to do, and we had, half a dozen employees. Is all you had at that time. So one car finished and a super speedway car being finished and a Richmond car, short track car in the works. So long story short, we went to Daytona and we qualified 24th, I think, on time, something like that. And which, was, I would say we were a little bit disappointed. Our speedway car we thought was really nice. We'd been to the wind tunnel with it. We thought we should do pretty darn good.
The Red Sox are trying to
when
make
looking
it 3
back
in a
on
row.
it, that was better.
Hi everybody, I'm Dwayne Kuiper
we
with
felt
Mike
like it
Krukow,
was.
just moments away from
It was
MVP
good enough
baseball with EA
in
Sports.
the
Tonight's
the
American
125
League
qualifying
the
race.
Boston
They
Red Sox
wadded
and
up.
the Baltimore Orioles.
The Heroes wadded up and wrecked in front of me, and I got involved in it. Tore the car up. So the only car, our backup car was our Atlanta car.
Here's the game's first batter,
You
Johnny
talk about
David.
a dog slow race car.
More often than
That
not,
thing
this guy
was
hits
really
for a
slow.
mediocre average.
So
And a strike
somehow
to
or
begin this
another,
contest.
back then,
This ground
you
crew is one of the
you
best
had
in
to
the
run
business.
a fan,
Check out
an
the
engine
field.
fan, a mechanical fan.
He got a strike upstairs.
And so the procedure was when it went to qualifying time, you put a flat fan on for
defensive swing
qualifying.
just to stay alive.
And of course that was less horsepower because it was flat.
Line drive hit back up the middle.
We ran a fan shroud and everything. Well, for some
reaches
reason, the
with
car
a
was so
leadoff single.
slow that for some
Next
reason,
up, Mike Lowe.
Steve and
This guy
Robin
has a
let
great swing
Jack
against left-handers.
try to race a flat fan. So we made
Caught
15
him
laps
looking.
where we melted her down,
The
blew her
Southpaw
up.
has one
So
pitch that is superior to all his others.
we left Daytona in
He
a
goes
hole.
out to right.
But,
Curves foul.
the guys worked really, really hard building a team, building a
He hits it
transporter,
over
building
towards
a
second. The runner tries to
outfitting a
bust it
building,
out.
and getting
That
cars
one will go
built.
down as a fielder's
We had
choice.
they built a really nice short track car. We ran fairly decent. I don't really remember anything spectacular until we got to Bristol, which was about the fifth or sixth race of the season.
This guy will punch out
We're
more than a
running.
few batters each time he
We're
starts.
only 3 of us on the
Runner
lead
on
lap:
first
Bill
with
Elliott,
1 out.
Jeff Bodine, and myself.
Misses with the fastball, 98
And
miles an hour.
Sometimes you try to make the hitter chase your pitch. That's
turns
exactly what you saw
Elliott
right there.
around with 5 or 10 laps to go. And when he does, Steve calls pit.
Looks to me
which
like
was,
he's trying to expand the
of
strike zone
course,
there and
Pitt
use the
put
batter
4
to
tires
went
on.
for it.
And so when he calls pit, I'm like, okay, yeah, here we go. Jeff Bodine stays out.
With only 3 pitches, Kai,
And
he's
of
pretty
course,
predictable.
Bill Elliott's going to pit because there's only 3 of us on the lead lap, and he just spun out.
There's a strike.
So he's going to be behind us if we come and get 4 tires. But Jack don't get it. He's been road
And it's now
racing.
1 and 2.
You know, he's new
Sometimes
to
you try
that,
to make
and
the
he
hitter
don't get it.
chase
He
your
says,
pitch.
why?
That's exactly what you saw right there.
And, you know, Jack intimidated all of us, intimidated Steve. Steve called the races, Steve Mill. And brilliant guy.
He reaches first safely.
But he let Jack intimidate him, and we stayed out. And, of course, Bill came and got 4 tires and won the race. There's no question in our mind that if we would have come and got 4 tires, we would have won the race right out of the gate.
There's strike 1.
But after that race, we weren't in contention to win any other races. We ran fair, not great, broke a lot of engines. We ran a lot of setups that were not ideal. We built Banjo Matthews cars, rear steer cars, because we were a Ford team, and that was the established car at the time, although front steer cars were pretty prevalent at the time, which drove probably a little bit better. They weren't nearly as squirrely and loose getting into the corners, but our cars were rear steer cars, Banjo Matthews cars, because Banjo was a kind of a Ford guy, and you know, we were Ford. Ford was our main backer, one of our main backers.
Today's lineup for the home team.
And we ran the wrong springs. You know, we'd run a pair of 1500s and a pair of 350s at a place like Atlanta or Bristol or whatever, and that really wasn't ideal. That was the Ford. One of the Ford engineers was high on that at the time, and so we were, you know, using his logic for most of the season. Well, late in the season, we got to running more like an 1800 and a 1200, and 350 and a 300, or a 400 and a 350 across the back. Much better, especially for the long run. It seemed like the equal springs would qualify fast or turn a few laps fast, but we really give up on the long run, and the split spring setup seemed to stay on the tires longer, hold its speed for a lot longer. So, you know, the year was a year of building and learning. You know, Steve and Robin and I all learning about things and trying to get our feet under us. We did finally get a pole at Dover, of course, my favorite racetrack. So we did finally get a pole, so that was a big success for us. But we really broke a lot of motors, you know, I was in a few wrecks, and we had a few issues here and there, and you know, we performed probably well for a new team, but not up to our expectations. The thing that you have to keep in mind is we had a Yankee owner in a southeastern sport at the time that was just starting to sort of bloom into more of a national sport, but it was really so we had a Yankee owner who may or may not have been looked upon the same as if our owner would have been a good old boy. We had a driver from the Midwest, which may or may not have been looked upon as favorably as if it was a good old boy from the Carolinas. And heck, Robin and Steve were both from the Northeast as well. So
Stepping in, Manny Ramirez.
You know, we had
This guy
that
isn't
going
great
for
against
us or
left-handed
going
pitching,
against
but he
us.
does
I'm
all
not going to use that as an excuse. I'm just saying that,
Fastball in there at the letters.
you know, we
Here's a
were
pitcher who could use a little extra height on the
semi
mound. He's a
outsiders.
little bit on the
Number
short
one.
side.
Number two, it was the day and
The
age
pitch is
of
hit up the
no
middle.
technical alliances.
He's headed to second.
You know, no sharing of information.
Stand-up double.
You know, Jack was new to building NASCAR engines. Really, he had done some, you know, some
Next
work,
at the
but
plate, David
nothing
Ortiz.
on this scale. His engine expertise and super success was in road
He's in
racing
there for a strike, and it's
at this
0-1.
time. So he
Now,
was
see if he can take
was
advantage of the runner on
sort of
second, score this run.
They
transitioning
check down
from
at third.
being a major force in road racing to
Will it be 0-3?
getting involved
Let's
in
find out.
NASCAR. So, you know, it was
Out by a half a step.
it was a steep learning curve for all of us, for Jack with the engines, for Steve and Robin and myself. We were trying to figure out where we fit into all this stuff. I had finally gotten with a race team with some people on it
And he gets the
that
called
were
strike.
more knowledgeable than I was in a lot of areas, and
Fastball at the
was
letters
trying to
and
figure
for a
out
strike.
how I could help Steve and Robin without being resented.
The appeal goes to third.
You know, people
No swing.
in NASCAR
He delivers.
didn't really like people
He
from
jacked
the
that one
outside
way
coming
back
in and telling them
and gone.
how they needed to be doing things. And that was always a challenge and one of the fears early in the early years for guys like Trickle and myself and Rusty and whoever, was that, yeah, we knew a lot about racing and race cars, and we needed some help from established NASCAR guys to help us adapt and implement
He gets it over for a strike.
you know, some of that to NASCAR. And most of the old guys, old guard in NASCAR, didn't want to hear anything from the driver. They wanted the driver to shut up and drive the race car. So I joined the gym first thing in January and started lifting because I knew I wasn't going to be in the shop as much,
Trails by 3.
because I knew that Robin and Steve didn't want to be told what to do by some race car driver all the time. And I knew I wasn't going to be the boss. I'd always pretty much almost always been the boss of my car until this point. And I was trying to figure out how I integrated into this new system with these really brilliant people, you know, Steve and Robin and Jack Roush. Where do I fit? Where's my contribution? So I threw myself into physical fitness, number one. And of course I hung out with Steve and Robin, and we talked race cars all the time. And I made my suggestions, and Steve was really open to me having input on the setups themselves. But as far as the bodies went, aero went, I had to kind of grow into that, gain their confidence, and build on some success to be able to have more influence on my race cars as we went forward. So, Steve was the same way. He was learning where his place was with Jack, and I really hate it that we didn't win Bristol. That we could have won Bristol.
To right field.
But I understand Steve rethinking his pit call because he was questioned by the owner. And obviously, heck, if it would have been the wrong call, which it couldn't possibly have been the wrong call, the worst case scenario would be that we would have run third. Though, as it turned out, when the pit call, Steve had me stay out. Then he explained to Jack while we were pitting, well, Bill came in and got his 4 tires and came out, lined up in second. Then the next lap, Steve pitted me and put 4 tires on, so I lined up in third. And of course I ran second to Bill because Bill started in front of me back in the days of single file restarts. I mean, it was a slam dunk the way we were running to have pulled off that win. But Steve could have lost his job. I mean, we were all pretty timid toward Jack at the time, and afraid of him. And I was afraid of Jack for 10 years.
This lefty is pretty good.
I'm really bad afraid of him for 5 or 6 years until he just intimidated us. He intimidated me. I'm sure he intimidated Steve to some degree, maybe not as much as he did me. I was really grateful for the opportunity to be able to race like that. We finished somewhere around 15th in the point standings. It was a pretty disappointing season for us. We had higher expectations.
This guy has a great approach to hitting. That makes him just
but we just got off behind from the very beginning. We just didn't have the organization, the people, and we had a lot of a steep learning curve for our first season, and it was really overwhelming, to try to race the full schedule against the best of the best when we weren't completely and totally prepared for it.
That's a nice at bat right
So,
there. Get that run home
toward
and
the
get
end of
up
the
and score position
season,
himself.
Jack actually let out the he leaked out that he might be looking for a driver, or that my job wasn't secure, or whatever it was. It was very
Jackson, he came up with it.
it really shocked me.
That's
It never
the
crossed
shutout
my
with one man
mind
left on second.
that of course I had signed a 5-year contract with him.
Sears announces the Wasilla
After
store is
2.5,
closing
the
forever.
score is
Millions in
4-0.
inventory must be sold, including all fashion clothing, tools, bed and bath, housewares, sporting goods, and more. Save 70% off on all fine gold, silver, diamond, and gemstone jewelry. Gifts for all occasions. All in-store, in-stock major appliances are on sale. Everything must go. Even the store fixtures are for sale. Only in the Sears store in Wasilla at 1000 South Seward Meridian Road. It's business as usual at all other Sears stores.
There's an out.
Sears announces the Wasilla store is closing forever. Millions in inventory must be sold, including all fashion clothing, tools, bed and bath, housewares, sporting goods,
There's a
and
line
more.
drive.
Save 70% off on all fine gold, silver, diamond, and gemstone jewelry. Gifts for all occasions. All in-store, in-stock major appliances are on sale. Everything must go. Even the store fixtures are for sale. Only in the Sears store in Wasilla at 1000 South Seward Meridian Road. It's business as usual
Right now, the
at
defense
all
should
other
be
Sears
thinking, too,
stores.
The pitcher can really help out by throwing something low in the strike zone.
Paid. I didn't even get paid part of the first year. I got a $75,000 salary
He's on
to
first
race
with
the
a base
full
hit.
Winston Cup schedule at that time, and so I signed up for no money, and then the second year, my pay was on the contract was just 40%, 35 or 40% of the purse. May have been 35% of the purse.
And gone.
Owner, no personal services, no salary, no nothing. So, I don't know. It just never dawned on me that I could be on the hot seat. And I don't think I was. I think Jack did that. Jack was a shrewd, ruthless guy. And he was fairly cold and hard to get to know at that time. And I think Steve and Robin would back that up. And I think he did that to motivate me, to push me.
Pitch taken for a ball.
And so anyway, of course, nothing came of it other than my grief and loss of sleep.
2 out.
over it, but nothing came of it. But that was one of the things that I really remember about that fall. Um, as we started going into the fall, we started running the spring setups, the split spring setups, which really started to bring us around. We started really staying on the tires longer, and being stronger, deeper into the races. Stuff started kind of showing some promise, and then we started building our first Laughlin front steer car. We started numbering cars. The first car we built was that Atlanta car, was number 1. So JR1, JR2, 3, 4. The 10th car we built was a Laughlin car, front steer car. And we will talk extensively about JR10 in the upcoming episodes, 1989 and 1990. And JR10 actually will be discussed all the way through the 93 season. For some reason, it became sort of a legendary car for us at the 6-car team. But we started building that car, so that was the beginning of transitioning toward front steer cars, which was a good move for us. Cars drove better, and we were getting on the right spring setup stuff, and we really the only thing we had to face looking toward 1989, the following season, was we were going to have to deal with a body change. And we really didn't recognize at the time that we started that initial body change that it was significantly worse for downforce than the 88 body style. And so this was going to present a challenge for us, because as you'll find out over the next 3 or 4 or 5 seasons, it was all pretty much the same body shape. 89 going forward for, I don't know, 5 seasons or so, 6 seasons, fairly the same body shape. So we wound up being faced with challenges of making downforce. It was easy to make downforce. We didn't have to try. We could follow the rules and make really nice downforce cars with the 88 T-Bird. But 1989 put us to work. I look forward to the next podcast, because 1989 and 1990 are the two. 1989 sets the foundation and puts us on fire and puts us on track to be a championship contender and to be a mainstay in Winston Cup racing. 1989 really sets the foundation. 1988, we had a lot of stuff to build and a lot of stuff to learn. 1989, we had more people. We were able to add more people. We were able to start with cars that we already had and start improving on things rather than just build things and trying to get things together and get them to the racetrack and whatnot. So we got some fun stuff coming up. 88 was a grind for sure. It was a grind for everybody involved. But as we went through the year, my physical fitness started to take shape, and just as the race team was maturing and getting stronger, I was as well from a physical standpoint. So I was building the foundation for what in the future would become a advantage for me and for the 6-car on the physical fitness side.
Tell us about, as you're setting the foundation in 1988, you're also doing the Busch Series with Bill Davis. You had a handful of races over there. Tell us about what was going on over at Busch.
Well, yeah.
Stepping
See,
at a
in
perfect
'87,
2 for 2,
Bill
Johnny
Bill
Davis.
built his first race car, built an ASA late
Out of the
model,
zone,
and
that's
we
a
did
ball.
that, and then he started
Here's the
building
pitch.
a Busch car for 19. That was in '87. So he started building a Busch car for '88. So Jack
Oh, Kite, he hung that one badly.
was
And the
willing
hitter
to
did
let me
not take
drive
advantage of
for
it.
Bill
You don't get too many
and
chances
get
like that
some
with big boys.
additional experience.
Mora should have
And
no
I didn't
problem.
have a
The
Busch
center
car to
fielder
drive,
makes
so
the
this was
catch.
going to enable me to run some
Made a
more
nice pitch
races
there to get the
and
fly
learn
ball.
some
Nice
things.
work.
And
Stepping in, Mike Lowell.
so
Sinker
Bill,
too low
you know,
for a
built his
ball.
first Busch car, and of
Hard
course,
sinker right there,
with
trying to make a
Bill, I
bad
was
fish
able
swing.
to direct,
The count's even at 1.
give the direction of the car. He built a chassis, where we,
Ground
you know,
ball
what
hit the other
setups,
way
what
to the
springs
right
we ran,
side.
all that kind of stuff. You know, I was able to have input
He
and
comes
give
up a
direction
little bit
on. So
short.
that was really cool. And it was kind of the same thing.
He's on with a
Bill
single.
and I built a foundation for his car. Uh, we used 06 for the first year there in '88. We managed to get with Danny Bumpus, and Danny was able to hook us up
Pitch taken
with
for a ball.
Carolina Ford Dealers sponsorship, which was really, really awesome. What a great
1-1
sponsor,
the
especially
count.
living right there in the
Base hit the
Carolinas.
left, and
It's
that
North
runner
and
will
South
definitely want to
Carolina
test his arm. That
Ford
guy's a
Dealers.
pie
So
thrower out
The
they
ball
got
is back.
behind us
Way back. Just
and
missed
did
the
some
home
advertising,
run.
which was
He's
really good
rounding
for me.
third.
Used our car and used
And the
me
run
in some
comes
TV
home.
ads and
That's
print
a
ads and
two-out
stuff.
run-scoring hit.
It's really a good
He
deal
does a great job of
for
knocking the
us.
run, and look at this. They're still threatening.
There again, we ran, okay, pretty damn good, but
Takes
our
slow,
foundation
1-0.
was being built for the following season. 1989 is when we really
They're
land
going
on
to
our
have to do
feet
something out there. Some of
and
these pitches ain't even close.
and really, start
Okay, you don't want
to
waste too
kick
many of these
ass.
chances. Let's see if they can come through
With
with a big
Bill
hit right now
there
with
in
runners in
'88,
scoring
we still
position.
ran the V8 engine just like it did in '87. Didn't have the V6s yet, although the Ford V6 was in the works
3-2.
and coming. I remember talking about Jack
The
and how
bases are juiced with the walk.
Oh, it's too bad he walks this guy. He just lets
how
him get away.
he intimidated me. I really liked the way Jack showed Steve and
outside.
Robin and how to build the exhaust pipes. So
And the count
you had to
is 2-0.
smash the exhaust pipes underneath the frame rails because they came out below the frame rails. So the cars,
2-1.
so you smashed them down.
Here's the pitch.
Well, Jack was engineer and he was
Taken
smart as
for a
hell.
ball.
He just said, well, here's how you do that. You make a cone. You make this. The pipe gets
He walked
bigger
them with the
as
bases
it
full.
smashes, so that the volume of the pipe stays the same and it flow stays the same. It was really cool. So I showed
Mahomes takes ball
Bill,
one.
went to Bill's shop, showed Bill, and we built pipes like that for the Busch car as well.
Blazing fastball misses.
That got back to
That
Jack.
pitch 96
Jack called
on the
me
gun.
up and
Here's
tore
the
my
2-0
ass off
pitch.
for it. So bad
Inside
that I
for a
wound up
ball.
crying because, dude, all I wanted to do is do good. All I wanted to do
A walk
is
forces
be a
home
good
run.
racer. All I wanted to do is win races.
Pitches
All
over
I
the
wanted to
place.
do
They
is
took
be
advantage of
approved
it with some
of,
cheap runs.
The
And,
Orioles call for a reliever.
he
They're
tore my
going to
ass
the
up
bullpen.
for like I was, stealing and spreading, secrets, his speed secrets all over the garage and everything else. It really hurt me. It really, really did hurt me. But Jack, he gave me lots of spankings the first several years that I raced. He was
Jackson lays off the pitch.
he was pretty
high.
tough. He was pretty tough on me. He didn't trust drivers. He didn't trust me.
1 ball, 2 strikes.
He wanted to
appeal
make
to
sure
the
he
first
kept me
base
down and kept me, sort of. I felt like he wanted to keep
The
me under
inside
his
out's
thumb.
the pitch to the right side.
And,
That'll do it as we go to the bottom
And so,
of the
it was
Going Going
It was
into the
tough.
bottom
It was
of
a
the
tough
fourth.
year.
The score
88
is
was a
7-5.
tough year. It was a tough year. We had some fun with Bill's car. We had some fun with the 6 car. Steve and Robin were a joy to
He
work
sends a
with.
roller to
And we
the
had
right
some fun,
side.
but God,
And he's
did we
out.
have frustrations. Oh, unbelievable
At a perfect
frustrations.
2 for 2.
It's a very
Miguel
difficult
Tejada.
difficult year. Not having technical alliance, not having anybody to show you how to do, anything, having to figure it out on your own.
Line drive
It was,
hit the other way
it
to
was
the
a
right
challenge.
side.
Tell us about that
That's a
sponsor,
great play.
Stroh's Light. You
Very
ever
tough
get
line
an
drive.
extra
That's
case
one
of
the
beer
toughest
every once
calls
in a while?
baseball to
Yeah,
get.
got beer, got plenty of beer, which wasn't any good for me because I hadn't quit yet. In '88,
Here's the 1-0 delivery.
I was
Gets it out towards short.
trying to keep
Bloomquist
drinking
is on
in
with
check
2 outs.
because I had this, finally, after all these years, I had this opportunity. The one that almost made me faint when I shook hands with Jack Roush. The one that allowed me a chance to, realize my dreams, work with Steve Meal, Robin Pemberton, and possibly race for a win in NASCAR Cup Series. So I really tried to keep
Lowell makes the
keep
routine catch.
drinking
With 5 innings
in
left
check.
to play, the Orioles trail by 2.
But over the years,
Next at the
especially
plate,
after the
Manny
brutal
Ramirez.
failure of 1983, I had developed demons. I was very resentful or
That's
bitter
out number 1.
about what had happened in
Next up,
NASCAR
David Ortiz.
and the fact that I'd lost my entire career and the fact that I had to go back late model racing and start from scratch, not where I left off. Didn't get to start anywhere near where I left off and left there. I had to start from scratch. The days of free cars are over from Ray Dillon,
Into right
and those
field.
kind of things.
Puts it away for the out.
It was just,
next batter
I
is
had
Johnny Damon.
developed sort of deep down resentment and sort of bitterness at this
Popped up in
time,
foul
and
territory, but he has room for a play.
so
Going into the
I
bottom of the fifth,
I
the
dealt with
score
those
is
things
7-5.
quietly and personally, but they influenced the way I acted some, and so this was a time when I really tried to I had gotten a little bit more wilder and crazier, with the alcohol thing, then it was time to take a good hard look at that and say, keep it in check
Watches the ball inside.
or
Sometimes you try to make a hit
risk losing your opportunity. So I tried to keep it in check
That's 3 strikeouts.
in 1988.
All while having a beer sponsor.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with having a beer
Here
or 2 or
comes the
3 or
first
4.
pitch of the at-bat.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Garbutt hits
Right.
one to deep
You
center,
know, some people just don't know how to
and he
act.
puts it away for the out.
And, I was one of those
Next
guys
up with
that
1
every
run
so often
batted
would
in,
forget
Melvin Mora.
how to
This
act.
guy has some success
And
against right-handed
and that
pitchers.
was what we needed to
Hit
avoid.
the other way to the right
Well, as
side.
it turned out,
That'll do
I
it for
didn't
the
feel
Orioles with 4 innings left to play.
successful enough
With
at
4
that,
innings left, the
and
Orioles
decided
trail by 2.
New Year's Day,
Stepping in 1 for
1989,
3, Mike Lowell.
was the day that I would put it behind me for a lifetime. And so I quit. I got New Year's Eve was the last drink that I had.
Well, we're going to get into what was a phenomenal year in 1989 in the next episode of the Mark Martin podcast. Good things are to come. We're going to have a lot of fun. Some really good years coming up here in the next couple of years, right, Mark?
Yeah, 2 really good years the next 2 years. Very important went from a struggling little racer to within a whisker of Winston Cup champion, all in the course of a couple years here. So these next 2 years are going to be fun to talk about.
All right, so that wraps up episode number 29 of the Mark Martin Podcast, year number 1988. Again, make sure to hit markmartinpod.com, markmartinpod.com. Hit and subscribe on all the different players. Leave that 5-star rating. And follow on social media at Mark Martin Pod.
Thank you for subscribing and listening to the Mark Martin Podcast. Remember to give us a 5-star rating in your app store. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Mark Martin POD. The Mark Martin Podcast is a production of the Accelerated Podcast Network.
First and second with nobody out. In tight.
The defense would be wise.
With 5 Kendall locations in the area, getting an outstanding value when you buy a Kendall certified pre-owned vehicle is simple. Shop a great selection in a safe and clean environment and get as low as 0% financing for up to 60 months on select certified pre-owned vehicles. Get started at KendallAutoAlaska.com. Kendall, let's start something great.
0% APR for 60 months on certified pre-owned Toyota models and non-approved credit with $1,669 per $1,000 borrowed. Subject to prior sales. See dealer for details. Offer valid 6/1/2020 to 6/30/2020.
Race fans, it's time to buckle in and listen to the fastest hour in racing radio. Your driver is a multi-time NASCAR winner and Hall of Famer Mark Martin. We cover racing, grassroots, history, we bench race, we talk life, and most importantly, we smash the loud pedal. It's time to turn some laps on the Mark Martin Podcast.
Line drive right to the first baseman.
Episode 28 of the Mark Martin Podcast, and we dive into the year 1987. We're going to go to the Busch Series this year, but before we get to that, make sure to hit the website, markmartinpod.com, markmartinpod.com. Find all of the listen links on the website. Listen to older episodes of the Mark Martin Podcast, and make sure to hit that subscribe button. Go to the Connect tab, go to the Listen tab, and find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spreaker, Spotify, YouTube, and many more. But we're going to get into episode number 28, Mark.
Yeah, what a year. I want to start this out by saying, some of the things and some of the stories that I tell are the way I remember them, the way I perceived them. And perception isn't always reality, just so you know. So if I'm telling a story, it's how I remember it. It's how I perceived it, and someone else may have not perceived it exactly the same way. So that kind of prefaces some of the stories that I'm going to tell here on this one. But we start off the season there. We get a late start again. Made the deal to move to Greensboro. David Levendow's shop was in Randleman, North Carolina. His brother-in-law, Bruce Lawmaster, was going to own and start up a Busch Series car, which is now known as Xfinity. We're going to use prototype engines because of my connections there. And David had a cube van and an open trailer and a shop that was big enough for one car in it, one race car in it, and some room to move and some move around there a little bit of room to get around, and a few some equipment to work with, not a ton, but a little bit, some tools and whatnot. So Arlene and I and the kids packed up
After 5, the score is
got us an
7-5.
apartment in Greensboro, and I don't think we really got into full swing for getting ready for the season until after the first of the year. which is a terrible late
Takes a
start.
tailing fastball.
We
Sometimes you
used
try to
Jesse
make the hitter
Koch
chase your pitch. That's exactly
for a
what you saw
chassis
right
builder.
there.
It was right down the road there in
Takes a
Randleman.
tailing fastball.
Jesse built badass short track Bush cars.
Takes a tailing fastball.
Sam Ard ran his cars. Exclusively. A lot of guys ran his cars, but Sam Ard was local and
3-2.
won tons of races. So Jesse was quite a character.
There's a long drive.
Jesse
It might
drank
go.
about a 12-pack of Pepsi every
It's
day.
not an easy catch and all, big boy. Great defense.
And we had to go to help him build the car. But another one of those deals, like my
Jackson
deal with
takes
Dylan.
one inside.
You know, I run a Dylan chassis. I should be able to just go pick it up, but no, I'd have to go help build it. So
One ball,
there
one
was
strike.
David Lovendahl, who was, had been with
He
me
swung through the pitch.
in the early
He didn't have a
80s,
chance to lead the ball with
late
that
70s, moved from Arkansas
1-2.
with me to Dillon's, to Indiana.
2 balls, 2
And
strikes.
now our paths are crossing again in '87. So it's
Down he goes on strike.
it's David and I and
Sometimes
one
you make a
other
good pitch,
person. We had
and
one
that
other
was one
full-time employee.
big strikeout
My
there.
memory doesn't serve me
Up
perfectly.
next with one single
I think
already,
that we
Manny
had
Ramirez.
that third employee was different
Outside.
at different periods of
Sometimes you try to
time.
make the hitter
But the
chase
guy
your
that I
pitch. That's
really
exactly what
remember
you
is
saw
Bobby
right there.
Leslie. Bobby was came in and
Pitch
worked.
taken for a ball.
I think he came in and volunteered
Sometimes
for
you try
quite
to make
some
the hitter
time
chase your pitch. That's
in
exactly
the
what you saw
evenings,
right
and
there.
then eventually wound up being an employee.
Taken for a ball.
But we had to get our car built for Daytona, and then had to get our short track car. We're going to do the whole season on 2 race cars, a speedway car, which ran the 1 mile and ups, and a short track car that ran the 3/4 mile and down
3-2.
racetracks. So there was a lot of short tracks on the schedule back then. So
He issues the walk.
we just didn't have very much
Positive
help.
comes out of
That
this
was an
guy
awful lot of
He's
work
falling behind,
to
he's
do.
falling behind, he
You
finally
know, with
walks
stock
again.
bodies and the whole thing. It was just really major. Worked 18 hours a day, 7
And
days
here
a
comes
week
the
in
hook.
January.
Here comes a new pitcher.
I eventually, right
They're
before
setting
we
up a
left for
pinch hitter.
Daytona, I broke it in hives from my head to my feet. And I still don't, I guess it was just nerves. I guess I was just about to have a nervous breakdown. When we left for Daytona, our Richmond car, which was the second race, wasn't built yet. So that was going to be a major thrash. It was just an incredible feat for us to get finished and make it down to Daytona.
And here's the pitch.
And we did. We made it
No
to Daytona,
swing.
and we had a good first outing. We ran fairly decent,
ball is hit to
not
right.
super fast, but ran good in the race. We ran, I
That'll
think we
do it
ran
for the Red
sixth.
Sox
I
in
think
the
it was
seventh.
6th or 7th, something like that. And I remember after the
It's time
race,
for the 7th inning stretch.
in that open trailer, we stopped like at Denny's, I think, or something to eat Saturday afternoon late, after the races, on our way home in the tow truck, and I remember the right rear tire being flat when we came out of Denny's, so I thought, man, we were lucky that didn't happen on the racetrack. But it was a good way to start off the season. One of our issues was because of my Ford connections and because of the little bit of support that we were getting from Ford, which wasn't
Here
a
comes the
lot, but
first
was
pitch of
more
the
than
at-bat.
nothing.
He just managed to make contact.
They didn't
on
have a
that one.
V6 that was ready to race yet. So we had to run a V8.
There's a roller to the left side.
And so the engine was a ton
They
heavier,
make the
and the
play
weight
at
rules,
first.
we had to carry
He
a
really
100-pound
doesn't make a very good throw here, but lucky
weight
for him, his teammate
penalty
picks him up
as
and makes the
well.
play out.
So we were racing against all V6s. This one Buick was big
One
into
ball and no strike.
the V6 scene and had a tremendous
Base is
engine,
empty with one out.
made really great power
Grounded to
and all
third.
that stuff. So
And
that was
he's
a
out at
challenge
first
for us.
base.
But we were the only one doing it. There was one other Ford that ran a limited schedule.
He hits
Glenn
it over
Jarrett,
towards second.
and the Faxtons. The Faxtons owned the car, number 24, and Glenn Jarrett drove it. Gosh, Glenn was so much fun. Seemed like we always parked next to each other. We were parked next to each other at Daytona and several other places. Glenn was such a great guy and fun, and we had something in common because we were running oddball race cars against all those Buicks. But,
At bat with 1 home run, Johnny
you know, we
Damon.
got back from Daytona and we got the car done for Richmond. I don't know how, but we did. But God, we worked. You know, we just
No balls, 1 strike.
we just barely made it. We barely made it. We were on a shoestring program. It was just me and 2 other guys. That we did have some good volunteer help that would come in the evenings. That worked at Petty Enterprises, was right down the road,
Sometimes you make a good pitch.
and
that was one.
and also
Big strikeout there.
Cliff Stewart's 50 Cup car was right down the road too. But I don't think we had anybody from Cliff Stewart's. Mostly, we had some good help. Ray Warren, some good guys that helped us pit the car and would come in every once in a while in the evenings and help, but mainly pit the car on race day. We had a good little deal going, and we got to Dover, which is, you know, in the spring. What is that? 1st of May or something? And I don't remember where we started winning poles, but we won, I don't know, half a dozen poles. I was still learning the cars because the setups were so much different than other cars. They weren't anything like Cup cars. Well, they were. They were more like Cup cars than they were ASA cars. But they were still different. It was a significantly different weight and some other things. And I was learning what would work for those races and those heavy cars for the long haul. I had found how to make speed pretty quickly, but to make them stay on the tires a long time was another challenge, because a lot of those races were 200 laps. No pit stop, 200 lappers. So, you know, or one pit stop, you know. And so we got to Dover, and gosh, I was running against these all-stars like, you know, Tommy Houston and Tommy Ellis.
Pitching change will be made. They're calling for a reliever.
You know, Sam Ard, Jack Ingram, Brett Bodine, just L.D. Ottinger. I just remember so many incredible drivers on that circuit that year. And
run is in the
Tommy Ellis, you know, a lot of people, I'll say this, there was quite a few people that didn't really care for Tommy Ellis. I liked Tommy. I never had any trouble at all with Tommy, but some people, like Tommy, got in a lot of fights, I think.
3 pitches, 3 strikes,
So evidently, he didn't have as good a relationship with some people on the racetrack as he and I did, but we had great mutual respect. Tommy treated me with great respect. Anyway, Tommy and Brett, I was running 3rd, and Tommy and Brett were racing each other for the win late in the race and took each other out. So I got my first win early in the season, which was huge. Then 2 weeks later, we go to Orange County Speedway and set on the pole there. And God, we ran good. We were leading the race late in the race. We were leading, and the last lap, coming off the pole for the white flag, something didn't feel right in the front of the car, but I didn't know what it was. I went down into turn 1. I didn't have hardly any brakes. The brake pedal was soft. Anyway, I made it back around and won the race, and pulled up there the start-finish line to do the checkered flag picture or whatever, and the right front hub caught on fire. And back then you could run aluminum hubs in that series, and of course, we had aluminum hubs because I still
Casey
built
hits a
the lightest
pop-up
race
right
cars.
at the elevator
I knew
shaft
how
to
to
the
build,
catcher.
and my cars were really
And
light.
foul territory makes
They were
the
nice.
catch.
Those were two nice little race cars, I'll tell you. Anyway, I was lucky enough to win that race with a broken hub on the last lap. So the only thing that was holding it on was the rotor, in the brake pads on the rotor. So
Pitch taken for
we
a
won
ball.
2 races back to back, and actually the phone started
Ground ball
ringing.
to the first baseman. That'll do it for the Orioles in
From
the 8th.
Interested
With 1 inning
people
left to play,
in Cup
the
racing.
score is 7-6.
And of course, I was a Ford driver, so Ford people were
Here
the
we
ones
go.
that were
This is
most
what it's all about,
interested.
big boy.
Bud Moore with the legendary 15 car showed a little interest. Ford was kind of getting high on my stock.
Takes a pitch just
And
off
Steve
the plate,
Meal,
1-0.
who had always been fun to talk to and a very respectful fan of mine, kept telling me,
Here's the 1-1.
Jack has hired me. We're building a Cup team, and Jack's going to be calling you. And of course, that went on for 3 months, and he had never had called me. So I was
Gathers it in
starting
with
to get
his
worried
glove.
about that.
Save.
I
Base hit to lead
didn't
off
hardly
the inning.
know whether to believe it or not after a long period of time. But eventually, Jack did call and asked me to come up to Detroit and talk to him about his plans to race the Cup Series. And so that was late in the season. Gosh, that was October, I think. And so, anyway, to move on from that, before I get into the story of going and
Takes, and the
seeing
count is
Jack,
1-2.
we go on to win another race that year as
Misses
well.
high.
We win at Richmond
He's
as
batting
well. So
.394
we
with
won
one
3
long ball
races,
and 6
but we
runs
blew up a
batted
lot
in.
of motors. So we weren't reliable. Finished, I don't know,
Single.
8th or so in the
Hey, Kai,
points
good work
because
there
we
to get
blew
the
up
runner
a
in scoring
lot.
position.
Fell out of a lot of races. We sat on the poles. We're fast. Won races. The phone's starting to ring about driving Cup cars now. So that was something that I didn't really intend on. When I took the job, I took it because it was an opportunity for me to race in a series where I would have the opportunity
They
to
want
do
more speed on
better
the bases,
financially
so
for
here
my
comes the
family.
pinch runner.
Number one. Number two, because I'd won the ASA championship 4
There are 2
times
on and nobody
and was
out.
looking for a new
Jackson lays off the pitch high.
challenge. To be challenged in my career was always important to me. So that was kind of a extra
He hits a
benefit
ground ball
to
the other way.
having the Cup guys
He's
start to
around
call
third.
and taking a look.
run
One of the
crosses the
things
plate.
that I
He slides in
remember that
safely
was
with a
remarkable about that year was because of my affiliation
He got a good pitch to hit,
with
and he drove it where they weren't.
with
Scored
Ray
2 and
Dillon,
set himself up for another on a base hit.
Bobby Moon had don't let me phrase that differently.
Ramirez is
Bobby
next
Moon,
up.
there was a series called the Late Model Stock Car Series, late model stock, down there in around Charlotte or in the south and southeast and stuff. And basically what it was a late model
They need to move that runner over third base right
with
here. The
some
batter
different
needs to get a ball
rules.
and
Most
drive the
people
right side.
ran truck trailing arms with those
And it's hit to
cars,
right.
and Bobby Moon had decided he wanted to
The
try
catch
one
is
of these
made.
Dillon cars. So
The
it
runner
was,
advanced to
it was
third
a
on the
completely
fly
different
ball.
front snout. It was a 3-link rear suspension and all that stuff. So it was really different. It was a spool in the rear end
They
instead
want
of
no
Detroit
part of
locker.
him. Looks to me
Most
like
of
they're
those
playing
late model
percentages
stock
here.
cars were just
Next up
Bush
with a pair
cars
of runs
that
batted
were,
in, Johnny Damon.
sort of derived
The pitch.
into a late model, a derivative of Cup cars, that was kind of
Hit to center
molded
field.
into late models. So
Mora
this was
makes the
a really
routine
different
catch.
chassis. And
The runner
Bobby
scores on
got
the
in touch with me
sacrifice
and wanted me to
fly.
run it at Martinsville.
Well,
It's a
that's a great
conjunction
at-bat right there.
weekend
Hit the
with the
ball
Busch
near the
Series
outfield, scored a run.
race at Martinsville at the end of the year. So I said, sure. So I go up to Bobby's place and do the setup on the car.
Next at the plate, Mike
Get her all set
Lowe.
up. We go down there, And I mean, the Busch race was not unremarkable. I know that we broke an oil line in a race and spun around and stuff. But one of the things is I had made the deal with Jack at this point, and Steve Neal, of course, was an employee there, and Steve went to Martinsville with me. Steve and his wife Lisa went to the race with Arlene and I, just to get to be around me, see me in action, whatever. Anyway, so Steve was there, so that was pretty cool for me. The Busch race was uneventful. I mean, we broke an oil line, whatever. But that late model stock car race was eventful. So we set on the pole. I think we broke the track record.
The home plate asked for help at first.
The outside pole was Barry Beggarly. And his car was owned by Jason, somebody out of Durham area, who was the supposedly president of that chapter of the Hells Angels.
Out of the zone, that's the ball.
Okay.
He swiped one base.
So they threw the green flag of the race, and Barry actually beats me off of turn 2 and takes the lead. I spend quite a few laps working Barry to get back by him, and finally I get a nose under him in the middle of 1 and 2, and we come off that corner, and I perceived that he cut back down a little bit, and obviously I didn't lift, so Barry goes around. Well, we go on and run the 150 lapper or whatever it is. We go on and win the race. And after the race, oh boy, there's some people pissed off, man. I'm not used to this. These guys are mad. And this guy, he's got crowding around the car. People are crowding around the car. Big guys, you know. This guy's standing back there, and it's Jason, the owner of Barry's car. He's got a knife. It's about a foot long, and he's cleaning his fingernails and staring at me.
Going into the bottom of the ninth, the score is 10-6.
With his damn knife. I ain't too worried yet, but I know they're mad. They can't get to me, but I know they're pissed. So anyway, when Arlene comes up to get her picture taken with me, I says,
the Red Sox
I don't want anybody to know that you're my wife. And she started laughing, and she said, it's too late. They think she's your wife, Lisa Meal. Oh boy, we had Lisa don't take no shit from nobody at all. So what had happened was, on the way up to the to get a picture taken, one of them said, that's a hell of a way to win a race. And she just turned around and said, we got to check, didn't we? Or the trophy or something like that. And so they come up there and they get their picture and everything, and I'm like scared to death. You know, I'm scared that I'm going to get beat up or whatever. I got all this vision of
the Orioles,
you know, the Hells Angels riding their motorcycles through
stepping in 2 for 3,
up
Willie
and
Bloomquist.
stomping my butt. So anyway, they say something else, and of course Lisa flips them off. Don't ask them what the hell they were looking at. So Lisa wasn't scared at all. But anyway, we finish up all the stuff.
The Boston Red Sox win it by 4.
I get the hell out of there, man. I'm getting the hell out of there. So I get the hell out of there. Get back home with my family, the 4 little girls in the house. Go to bed at 10 o'clock. About 10:30, you know, in the apartment, the doorbell rings, and I think, oh my God. The Hells Angels are here, and they're going to ride their Harleys in through the plate glass window and come in here and beat my ass and rape my family. You know, we're in trouble. And so I get up and I go to the door, and it's Jimmy Coltrane brought the trophy Like I gave a damn whether I got that trophy or not. But that was he was bringing me the trophy because I'd left it. Of course, I left it. I got the hell out of there as quick as I could. Anyway, that was pretty funny. That whole thing, looking back on it, was pretty funny, but it wasn't funny at the time. Uh, I had to have Lisa Neal be my bodyguard and do my light work, so that was pretty cool. But the story, I got a little out of timing there. The story really was because I think that was about our final race of the season. I had already gone up to Detroit to meet with Jack. And, he took me all through the engine sales, the dynos, all that stuff. And then he took me in his little office. It was about a 10 by 10. Nah, it wasn't that big. No way. It might have been 8 foot by 8 foot. It was a tiny little office. And we sit down and he started telling me, he says, Mark, I'm going to do this thing. It seemed like he told me I've saved up. I've got $2 million in the bank. I'm going to race for 2 years without, I don't have to have a sponsor. I've got the money to do this for 2 years. That's my commitment. It's a 2-year commitment. I'm going to do it. We're going to do it right. Here's what I'm going to do on my engines. Here's what I'm going to buy all the tires we need. I'm with Steve Mill, Robin Pemberton. We're going to do this thing and do it right. And he said, I would like for you to drive it for me. And I said, well, I'll do it.
With 5 Kendall locations in the area, getting an outstanding value when you buy a Kendall certified pre-owned vehicle is simple. Shop a great selection in a safe and clean environment and get as low as 0% financing for up to 60 months on select certified pre-owned vehicles. Get started at KendallAutoAlaska.com. Kendall. Let's start something great.
0% APR for 60 months on certified pre-owned Toyota models and non-approved credit with $1,669 per $1,000 borrowed. Subject to prior sales. See dealer for details. Offer valid 6/1/2020 to 6/30/2020.
Sears announces the Wasilla store is closing forever. Millions in inventory must be sold, including all fashion clothing, tools, bed and bath, housewares, sporting goods, and more. Save 70% off on all fine gold, silver, diamond, and gemstone jewelry. Gifts for all occasions. All in-store, in-stock major appliances are on sale. Everything must go. Even the store fixtures are for sale. Only in the Sears store in Wasilla at 1000 South Seward Meridian Road. It's business as usual at all other Sears stores.
We stood up and shook hands, and I got lightheaded for a second. Seriously, I got a little bit dizzy because I couldn't believe that I was finally going to get a chance, in what I believed. I believed in the program that he was putting together. However, I never asked if I was going to get paid or not, or what I would get paid. That was not important to me at the time. So anyway, as I found out later, I just barely got paid anything. Jack was committed. We did. He had a little bit of money. He was going to put all his money toward good, really toward equipment. I would say hardware. I'm sure that Steve and Robin, weren't making anything spectacular either. They bought into the program just like I did. They believed that he was going to give us the tools and resources that we needed to be all that we could live up to our potential. And so it was supposed to be 1988 was supposed to be a limited schedule. However, we'll talk about that in the next podcast. Those things changed late in the going, but we did get our first car put together in November. It was a Atlanta car. It was an intermediate car. We got the car all put together, and we took it down to Atlanta, and the race was on Sunday, and we tested the car at the racetrack on Monday, and so that was our first outing in 1987. So we didn't race. We just went down there and shook the car down and learned some things. But we started building a trailer, a hauler, and started building. Built our first car and then started building a super speedway car for Daytona after that. So that kind of wraps up the highlights that I can think of 1987. That's like I said before, some of those events are the way I perceived them. They may have not been exactly like that if you would have been standing there watching them, but that deal that went down at Martinsville was that's a funny story.
Well, in 1987, you had a lot going on. There's a lot of different cars, a lot on your plate. I mean, that was just there's a number of cars that you were dealing with, and then obviously the 31 car. Now, tell us about the Fat Boys Barbecue sponsorship. Anything come of that? Did you actually consume any of that? How did that all come together?
Oh yeah, we ate some of that barbecue every chance we got because it was free. It was very important. But that was Boys Barbecue was owned by Bruce Longmaster that owned the car. So that's where that came from. And to be real honest with you, he gave us everything that he could give us for one season, 1987, and that was a pivotal season in my career.